All right, Nyaweskano Swaguego. This time I'm going to go over, this is the third video I've made now about reading the language. So I'm going to go over the nasal O, which is here. It's an O with the dots over it. Nasal E, got an E with the dots over it. And then this, we've come to call it the flat A. Some people call it A with two dots. And I'll show a little bit about why it's not a nasal A. I know it's easy to label it nasal A because this one's nasal E and nasal O. I'll show why it doesn't nasalize, and you probably don't want to call it a nasal A. But they each their own. So here we go. So nasal vowels, when you have nasal vowels before certain consonants, they do different things. So what I noticed over the my time teaching is when it's in front of these consonants, it does something different than when it's in front of these consonants here. So it's not a universal rule that if it's in front of a consonant that it does one thing, and it's this N sound. So here's a phonetic way. Sometimes they get written. E gets written as this N, and this O gets written as on, as if there's always an N sound in there. And that's just not the case on these ones. So phonetically spelling these doesn't always work, and so that's why it's easier to just learn how to read rather than relying on phonetic spelling. So we'll get into this. So here we go. We got a nasal E before the D, G, J, K, and D. So it's, as I said, it has an N sound. So this is when you get to learn some of these words, and I have examples. So before a D, endwajanoni, endwajanoni, and also gendi, gendi, gendi. Before a G, engekoni, engekoni. Nenge, nenge, nang. So you hear that N sound. Enjahtandi, 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 enjahtandi. Genjohqua, genjohqua, genj. So you can hear the N. Dwate denk, dwate denk. Dwate denk, enknino, 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 dentge, 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 hayen twas, hayen twas. So there's where that N sound comes in if it ends up before those. If it comes before these ones, you don't want to put a letter N sound in there. And then these are examples of where this happens. When it has a H, heyetahqua. That's a word for a bathroom. Heyetahqua. And then the number 3, se, se. So nobody says sen. There's no N sound. Se. Heswait, heswait. You all will go heswait. And then o gadeyas, o gadeyas, right? So there's no yents and there's no hence weight. It's just hes, yes. And won't someone, and won't someone. It will begin or it will start. Gawent, like a nail, railroad tie. Ayohent, ayohent, and onayotka. Onayotka, onayotka. So that's a word for Oneida people. This one's for tomorrow. So you can see there's no N sound in these ones. So they're different. Same thing, nasal O does the same thing before these vowels, consonants. Same thing with the letter N sound in there. So examples before a D, dondasi, dondasi. That's kind of a way to tell somebody to say it again. Dondasi. Gyeondanehgui. Gyeondanehgui is a word for a horse. It hauls logs. Ongatonde. Ongatonde. I did hear it. Ageong. Ageong. Like it shouldn't be that way. Ageong. Aweonje. 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 That's like, it doesn't matter. Leave it alone. Let it be. Kind of like, don't worry about it. I went on J. O gyonjon. O gyonjon. O gyonj. Gyonjon. It's snowing. Onknigohe. Onk. Onknigohe. I forgot. Aknonkdani. Aknonkdani. So this one isn't nook. If it was a regular O, it would say nook. Because it's a nasal O. Nonk. Aknonkdani. I'm sick. Daskomontas. Daskomontas. Show me. Point it out to me. And deyuntqua. 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 She dances. Deyuntqua. Again, now these ones, it doesn't have the letter N sound. No N sound. So providing examples before H. Gonohqua. Gonohqua. Wa'o dandi. Oh, this one. Gonohqua. I love you. Wa'o dandi. Wa'o dandi. Wa'o dandi. She left. She got going. Hosa seho. Hosa seho. Hosa seho. You went another cycle. This is the second half of that word for happy birthday. Sadoswe dani. Sadoswe dani. Sados. So no letter N. Sadoswe dani. Howonoits. Howonoits. He likes him or she likes him sometimes. Well, usually, sometimes it's howo is him to him. Howonoits. And then gao won't. Gao won't. Gao won't. Word for boat, canoe. Howoyestani. 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 She teaches him. Ngoyana wants. Ngoyana wants. Ngoyana wants. I will help you. So again, there's no N's between any of these N sounds. And then here we have the A with the two dots or a flat A. So normally when the nasal vowels are before these, this is where you get the letter N sound, but there is no N sound because it's not nasalized. So again, before a D, the other ones would have an N sound. Wanis headache. Wanis headache. A particular day. Awenit gadik. Awenit gadik. Gad. Right? So not gand. Awenit gadik. It was enjoyable. It was fun. Niwanis hagi. Before a G. Niwanis hagi. Oh, sorry. Niwanis hagi. Niwanis hagi. Like number of days. O dagwown. O dagwown. O dagwown. It's like a grave. O get edgy. O get edgy. O get edgy. Black hair. Hayat daji. Hayat daji. He's along or he's with them. Hayat daji. He's included. Skoek. Skoek. Skoek is a frog. Soek. Soek. Soek is a duck. O watowed. O watowed. It got cold. And then waos had. Waos had. Waos had. So you notice there's no N sound, and that's why you wouldn't say it's a nasal A, because it doesn't perform the nasal just like the other ones. So hopefully that helps when reading those particular characters. And Nate Honsel, that's all she wrote, folks. Joggle.